anything to clip for this one. So
That's fine. Honestly, Brett, let's be real. This episode doesn't deserve that.
it doesn't. That's exactly why I didn't. So let's find the theme song and get right into it. When these dads meet world, watching Boy Meets World. We grew up on the show, now we have kids and host a podcast. We watch each episode and then share our thoughts and grades. When these dads meet world.
They want you to take the roles.
Yes, we do want you to take the roles. We make them for you weekly just so you can have them. They're delicious, they're nutritious, and they taste just like chicken. So, welcome to Dad's Meat World, your weekly deep dive into the world of Boy Meets World, where every week we discover just a little bit more how little Michael Jacobs knows about college. I am your dad, number one, this week, taking you on your exploration. And joining me from 3B is dad number two.
Yes, I'm here. I know the answer to one question, and then I disappear for the rest of the episode.
Huzzah. Tyler, how is it going in your world? How's your fantasy football world doing this week? Because, people come to
Well,
us for football content.
yeah, that's what they come for is the football content. I mean, first week I did pretty darn good. All my people, even though Tyreek Hill got arrested, he played pretty great. Can't say the same for today. I don't know what the Colts or not the Colts. I don't know who they played, but I don't know what that team did, but it did not go well for them.
I watched most of that game because I have Anthony Richardson in my league I've been in for 20 years.
Yeah,
That was not a good game.
no. So yeah, just a weird day overall. Not too good scoring. But who cares? It's just for fun, Brett.
Exactly. Yeah. No
Yeah.
money. It's just fun. Bragging rights.
Pe- Children are starting to heal up, so that's a good sign. Things are getting
Yes.
maybe a smidgen less chaos. Football season, like my little football team, as I was telling you about earlier, our season's almost done, so just counting down the days.
As that running clock edges closer to the end of the season.
Hallelujah. Brett,
Yeah.
how's it going for you?
Going well for us. I was telling Tyler off mic before we started, we got to go to our first band show of the year. And if you're not a marching band parent, you get to go to a few of these every year if your marching band is big enough or good enough. They're invitationals. You're not like usually not competing for prizes or anything, but our band's gonna be going to three of them this year that I'm aware of. One of them will actually be at Ohio State Stadium next month. But you just get a bunch of marching bands together, and it's like one big long halftime show. And you get to see a
Mhm.
bunch of different marching band styles. You get to see a bunch of different music choices and performances, and it's a lot of fun. And this one we do every year. The school has been involved with it for probably as almost as long as it's been going on. This one's been going on for 50 some years, give or take. And yeah, it's you get to see the different levels of skill, and
Mhm.
there's bands there that the school has like a 300 or so numbered student body in their high school, and their marching band's like 50 or so kids. And then there's the largest marching band there was from just outside the Columbus area. Their marching band was just over 200 kids. And ours falls somewhere on the higher end there. We're like 140 or so in our marching band. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to go sit there and see that, get to enjoy all the music. Had a
Nice.
Friday night football game, and kids are good. Kids are healthy, back in school, adjusted to school life, and yeah, got fall play coming up after football season's over. So, and
Very
Toby
nice.
might be going to homecoming.
Ooh.
Probably not with someone, so no homecoming proposal. No hoko propos.
Yeah, when did that start? Because I'm uncomfortable. I Promposals became a thing like after I graduated high school. All of a sudden, those things started popping up, but now homecoming proposals are a thing. I just
We
don't
saw
get it.
2 of them Friday night. One
Of course.
from a football player to a cheerleader, one from one band member to another after everything was said and done. We're putting stuff away because we chaperone Friday night. Homecoming proposals. Okay, good looking people. If you're a teenager, I feel like if you're watching, I just go into a total Donald Trump pose right there. Okay, good looking people. Um, I'm going to go complete old man here for a moment. I'm with Tyler completely. Homecoming proposals, they dilute the specialness of other proposals.
I didn't say that. I said I don't understand them.
I okay. Then I guess I don't stand with you. I was having this conversation with Kelly before I came down to the office to start our conversation. I say they dilute the uniqueness and the specialness of other proposals down the road.
Yeah, no, I mean, all it's always just about like people being able to record and post and show, oh my gosh, look this cute thing my boyfriend or the guy that likes me did, right? I mean, I will say it's a good practice for a proposal later on because you have to know how does she want to be asked because it has to be in a way that is flattering to her. So if you learn those type of skills early on, that's not a bad thing, but it all comes down to what's the purpose of it. And honestly, I never went to homecoming. Like homecoming was not a big deal whenever I was in high school. At my high school, it's become a bigger deal afterwards. And for all like Christmas dance to home or to prom, I typically went with a girlfriend at the time or a girl I liked, and I'd be like, "Hey, since we're already talking, why don't we go?" It was never
Yeah.
complicated in these
It's like if you're
grand
dating
romantic
someone, why the
gestures.
big proposal though, you
Yeah,
know?
it was just always like a, "Hey, we're going, right? Like we'll still be together in time to go."
Well, I asked my kids who are both in high school, if you're already dating someone, isn't it just assume that you'll go? No, no, you still have to ask. So if I'm dating someone, I can propose to anyone I want to.
Right.
And it was actually implied that yes, I can, but that could have some horrible consequences.
It can, and that's why I'm also like, "Why?" Like, if you're doing
Yeah.
this grand romantic gesture to, like, communicate, "I like you and I'd like to go I'd like this to be a date for us, this thing." I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we're going really old man get off my lawn territory here. We should probably just
Yeah.
move on to our episode.
Well, to get into that, Brett, let's just be real for a moment. Deans don't care about fraternities and sororities. I said it. We can move on. Episode
Okay.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good looking people. It's going to be a fun one this week. We're looking at the 4th episode of season 5, Fraternity Row. After attending, I will share this. I don't write these synopses. I pull them from a couple of different sources. The synopsis for this episode from both sources I pulled them from was so rough on each one, I actually had to edit it because the one, it did not accurately reflect what was going on, and the other one, it went off on a tangent that really didn't add anything to it. It just was rambling. So anyway, after attending a college philosophy class, an empowered Shawn neglects his high school tasks in favor of collegiate ones and gets suspended. Meanwhile, Eric forms his own fraternity, Magnum Pi, and arouses the dean's suspicions. This episode was written by Andy Girdad, directed by Alan Meyerson, originally aired October 17th, 1924, and, pardon me, currently enjoys an IMDb rating of 7.6. So, Tyler, our Nielsen rating for our previous episode, episode 3, had 11.4 million views. What do you think we pulled in for this episode?
I'm gonna say, in light of special guests, I'm gonna say we probably averaged the same, about 11.
I don't think you're very close to the mic on that one because I was having trouble hearing
I'm
you on
sorry.
that one.
I'm gonna say about 11.
About 11. Yeah, we were still in the 11 range. We are at 11.21. Um, we're still in the same range. We are still in, like I said, we're still in October. We're still fresh in the year. Still in the first 4 episodes. People aren't ducking out, but we're not really into sweeps territory yet either.
No.
And I'm vamping a little bit because I forgot to bring up anything about Andrew,
Oh,
our writer,
understandable.
as I usually like to do.
Well, for a moment, can you hear me good now?
Yes, yes, I can hear
Okay,
you
I
now.
turned I turned myself up so I could lean back because it makes my shoulder and back feel a lot better than leaning
Okay.
forward.
Now I wanted to bring up Andrew uh, specifically because this is actually one of 2 episodes that Andrew has written for Boy Meets World, and he has an interesting writing history. He will actually go on to write A Very Topanga Christmas later this season.
Huh.
And previous to this, he wrote for shows like The Jeffersons, Mork and Mindy, Archie Bunker's Place, Head of the Class, Saved by the Bell, The College Years, Herman's Head, Empty Nest. A lot of shows that really had an impact on the TV landscape.
I'm
He
sorry.
also
Did you
wrote,
say Saved by the Bell, the college years?
up until that point, those shows were impacting the college landscape. That one was just
No,
kind of, at,
I
I,
understand. What I need you to
yeah, I was,
understand, Brett, is I'm standing on the edge of tomorrow. It's only up to me how far I go. I've never
um,
seen such a view before. A new world before my eyes. Okay, keep going.
Since that time, after his Boy Meets World gig, he also then went on to write for Sister Sister, and
Sister,
then moved on into
sister.
a lot of writing for cartoons. I don't know if he himself just really enjoyed transitioning into writing more for children, or if he had kids or grandkids that he just really wanted to write for. And so his writing transitioned into more stuff like Astro Boy, George of the Jungle, Hot Wheels, um, and lately, especially into the early 2020s, he's contributed a lot to Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol, be there on the double
So,
whenever you're in
yes,
trouble.
our
Running
writer
after
for this
Billy.
episode,
Right
if
hand is to your pups. Here to save the day. Marshall, Chase, Rubble,
I'm
Zuma,
just going to let you
Sky.
keep going.
Yeah, they're on their way.
Yes, our writer from this week's episode has written for such greats as what did I rattle off here? I already navigated away from that window. He has written for such greats as the Jeffersons and Archie Bunker, and moved on all the way to Chase and Marshall. So
Hey, listen, there's some I'll say philosophical questions that are asked in the show, The Paw Patrol. Um, better than this episode portrayed it. Um, I will say, because my oldest son Grayson, he got into Paw Patrol hardcore, and apparently the other
Asher did
day,
as well.
my wife put on Paw Patrol for our middle child, and so Grayson, like, all of a sudden walked in the room like, "Why do you have Paw Patrol on?" Like, offended and upset that he was not aware that Paw Patrol was on.
Why
She's like,
didn't you invite me?
"Yeah, I put something on for him," and then Grayson like sat down and started watching. Yes, so so fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, Asher was big into Paw Patrol too. So I mean, we had like the lookout tower and everything. So yeah. So anyway, we're gonna start out this week with Jack kind of in like a beach chair out in the hallway, studying in quotation marks if you're just listening.
Yeah.
And
Hey, Brett, you know how
Lisa,
people in college just get a lounge chair and hang out in front of their doorway?
well, of course, I hung out on the porch in our house because last 2 years on campus, I lived in a house on campus. I actually lived in as close as you can get to a Greek house on Geneva's campus as you can without being in a Greek house, because Geneva does not allow Greek lifestyle
Correct.
on
Well,
campus.
I was gonna say, but like that's like me sitting in Pierce waiting for people to walk by the door and the hall, the going up the stairway. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I have more experience with Greek living than Jack and Eric ever will. So, and
Yeah.
I never lived it. So anyway, Lisa from 3B comes by, and
Everybody's
let's
from
just
3B.
everyone is always going to be from 3B in this apartment building, because there's only Jack and Eric's apartment and 3B, even though we see like 3 other doors down that hallway. But anyway, Lisa from 3B is played by, I believe here, it is Leslie Dannon. First of, let me make sure I'm getting the right one here. Lisa here. I got to check because both of these girls are credited with 2 different names here. So I'm double checking here.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I got the right one. Leslie Dannon. It's first of 2 times we will see her on Boy Meets World. We're also going to see her next season in the Psychotic episode.
Hmm.
She has 34 acting credits on her resume, including Charles in Charge, Doogie Howser, Weird Science, Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills.
Yeah, you know, classic.
Yeah. Step by Step,
Step by step, day by day,
Silk Stockings,
day by day.
Girlfriends, and more. She's not been seen in front of a camera since 2002.
Fair.
Yeah. So Lisa comes out and, she interacts with Jack, wants to know why he's studying in the, or, just kind of studying in the hall. So he can talk to girls. Yeah, studying. And they have a not so fruitful conversation. The elevator dings and Eric comes out wearing a dress.
Yep.
Yeah. Which we get a fun little interaction between Lisa and Eric. You're pretty, right back at you.
Yeah, I mean, uh, okay. Let's just address this right off the bat, Brett. Um, in fraternities and even sororities, there is a bit of hazing that occurs, but it feels like the only point of this is not the fact to show actual hazing and the requirements to become part of the brotherhood. It's just, wouldn't it be funny if Eric walked off the elevator in a dress? That's all it's there for.
Yeah, let's put a dude in a dress joke. I mean, we've already seen Corey and Shawn in drag. Let's put Will in a dress, and later we'll put uh, Matt in a dress. So last
Does
season in Chick Like Me.
does anyone wear a dress? Any guys wear a dress next season?
No, we'll see it in season 7. I don't
I
think
know
next
season
season though.
7. I was just thinking, like, is there technically 4 years of drag? I'm gonna have to know. I might have to look ahead to double check because
Yeah,
if
I don't
that's the
remember any
case,
season
that's
6.
bonkers.
So anyway, yeah, we get the tired joke, but I will admit the interaction is fun. It's solely just Lisa and Eric that I did chuckle. I do chuckle at the way the actors carried off. You're cute, right back at you. Um, so Jack and Eric are a little bit at odds because Eric was just there was a big party. He stopped by the fraternity and decided he was going to pledge.
Hmm.
Um, here's the thing. When you pledge a fraternity as a freshman, which up to this point, Eric is a freshman,
Yep.
Jack is a freshman.
Yep.
When you pledge as a freshman, if you're accepted, unless the fraternity does not have room in the house or you are really loaded, you're going to have to move into the fraternity house.
Correct.
So if Eric's accepted in the fraternity, there goes Jack's roommate.
Yeah.
Because Eric doesn't have the money to pay whatever fees it would be to not live in the house, and
Yep.
I very much doubt any fraternity on this campus would have empty rooms if they're already pledging right here. So,
Well, again, Brett, this goes into the realm of we don't understand what actually happens at college. We're throwing around the taboo word just because it's fun, but with no actual insight. But,
yes.
you know, my problem, Brett, is that there are people in the writer's room who would have gone to college.
Or at
And I
least
just
knew
wonder if
people who did.
at this point they just kind of let Michael Jacobs tell them this is what we're doing, and they're like, this doesn't make any sense. He goes, doesn't matter, we're telling jokes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, and admittedly, at this point, their audience is high schoolers who do not
Yes.
have college experience themselves.
Yeah.
So I try to.
I mean,
I try to grade on a curve, so to speak, when
it gets
for what I'm expecting from them,
right.
not from
It
what
gets
I will
better
actually
once
grade
Corey's
them
in
as.
college.
Yeah, it does get better when their characters are all there. But for right now, I kind of what my expectations are on a curve. That's not how I'm going to grade them.
Right.
Um, but you know, they have some joking back and forth that I paid money for this dress. I'm never going to get to wear it again. They go in the apartment, and then Corey and Eric come up, or Corey and Shawn come up the elevator. Eric or Shawn thinks college is easy because all of Jack's stuff is out there, and he's going to sit down and show Corey just how easy it is, show you what it's all about.
Yeah.
And we get another lovely lady from 3B. And this just happens to be Jennifer, played by Nikki Acox. First and only time on Boy Meets World.
Hmm.
52 acting credits to her name.
Hmm.
Weird Science. By the way, every time I say Weird Science in this episode, it's not the movie from the 80s, it's the TV show
Hmm.
from the early 90s. Third Rock from the Sun, USA High, The X Files, Dark Angels, CSI, Jeepers Creepers 2, Ed, LAX, Supernatural, Perfect Stranger, and more. Unfortunately, she did pass away 2022, just a couple
Oh.
years ago. So she comes out and runs into Shawn, and there's a little spark there. They introduce themselves to each other, and Shawn does the whole "I do indeedy" because that's college talk when she asks if he lives there,
Hmm.
and she believes him to be a student at Pembroke, which he leans into, and Corey remarks to the fourth wall that yes, another relationship beginning with a lie or built on
Hmm.
a lie.
Well, because he's holding a Western philosophy book, Brett, and of course,
Exactly.
every
She
freshman
happens to
takes
be
that
in that
class, right?
course. Yes, she happens to be in that course. Um, and she wants to know if he's in that course himself. So yes, he is, and I'll save you a seat there tomorrow. All right, I'll see you there.
Right.
So
Which
Sean's gonna go to college.
So, Brett, here's my question. Is there two different classes that are Western philosophy? Is there like a bunch of them that's together that different professors end up teaching? Because there are certain actual college courses that are taught at the same exact time with a collective of professors that all do it together, and they share the grad assistants to help them with the grading of the stuff, and they do it in a bulk, and they always do it at a specific time in the school year to make their lives easier. Do you think it's like that, or do you think it's just who cares? He has a book and he's now going to the classroom.
Well, I think real world, a class like this. It honestly, I think it would depend on what Penbrook is putting effort into. If it's
Mhm.
more of an education focused school, they probably would be more like what you described, where Western philosophy would be kind of a 101 introductory level course where they'd have, say Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they'd have or Monday, Wednesday, they'd have a main, 8 o'clock or an 11 o'clock option. And then Friday, they'd have, say, discussion level or days and whatnot. If Penbrook is more say, engineering and science focused, this is probably more an elective level class where there may be, this professor has it maybe once or twice optional a week.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
sure
mean,
what Pembroke is at this point.
if it's one of those deals where, because we went to Geneva, we were required to take an Old Testament class, New Testament class, and also there was a realm of you took a you had humanities courses.
Humanities.
Mhm.
Oh,
So I almost wonder
110,
if
111, and 112.
instead of quote unquote having a humanities and Bible class that everyone has to take, they do like everyone has to take like a philosophy class,
Mhm.
to get kind of a religious slash, how we process and think about things.
Based on the size of the class that we see on screen, I'm going to opt for this is more of an elective level course.
Yeah, I could see that. But the other thing I kept thinking about is the professor made it seem like he doesn't always know who's in his class.
That was another thing that bugged me, but we'll put a pin in that and until we actually get to meet the professor.
Right. But yeah,
So yeah,
let's just yada yada, Brett.
yada yada yada. Sean's going to go to college, and he thinks his first day of college he's got a girlfriend. So let's move on to Mr. Feeney's class, where Mr. Feeney has written a sentence on the board and
And the
wants to
only one that
know,
knows is Topanga.
yes, what's wrong with this question. Topanga's the only one that knows, but she's already what, 10 for 10.
Yeah. So
He
this is
wants someone else to
English.
answer.
Is this English,
This
Brett?
has to be English because he's asking what's wrong with the sentence structure, basically. And where the lesson we're supposed to learn is he's teaching them the basics they need to know to be successful at the next level. He's teaching them sentence structure. I'm guessing for writing a paper that they're going to use is as a I do have a small problem with this type of a basic question, what's wrong with this sentence structure for a senior level class in high school?
I mean,
But it's part of the story, so
the only thing I could think of, Brett, is if it's one of those deals where he writes he writes a statement. Okay, there's something wrong here. He writes another statement. Okay, now there's something wrong here. Writes another statement.
mhm,
The problem is not then the new statement. It's, well, how does it relate to the statements above? So I almost wonder if it's one of those deals where he's adding to it. Because in
yeah.
college you do have to, you know, manage through your paper, and there's so many wordings you're allowed to use, and so many tricks and whatnot that eventually you'll start getting docked on going, okay, it's well thought out, but your grammar is not good, and you need to think of other words to describe things other than, well, this was really cool.
And he does make I mean, he does make a good point in all of this that many of you have forgotten the basics. And
Yeah.
it does happen at many people at yeah, many students by the time they've gotten to their senior year have forgotten the basics of how to uh how to conjugate verbs, how to build a sentence properly. I was never a teacher, but I did in my role as a youth pastor, I did read a lot of stuff that teenagers wrote uh, for school assignments, for other things. I did have students that would ask me to read things that they wrote before they turned assignments in. I had students that would ask me to read things that they wrote that looked like they had just tried to text them.
Stop
And
making fun of me, Brett.
I wasn't going to throw you under the bus, but okay.
We both know who you're talking about.
Dude, you're not the only one that did it.
Oh, I know.
There was other churches I worked with before besides the one that I was with where I met you. Uh, but but at all grade levels, I mean, I have seen students who have forgotten that. I have forgotten a lot of the basics
Yeah.
that I've learned over the years. It happens. But we get to the joke that Shawn is zoned out. He is clipping coupons for his Christmas shopping. And we're 4 episodes in, and we're already back into the Shawn is not gonna go to college again story because he doesn't see how it's pointless, or
To to,
doesn't see,
to
or let me rephrase that. Not that he's not gonna go to college, but he kinda doesn't see the point of anything here,
right.
the point of learning anything here.
To quote future Corey, Ben Sandwiches, we're doing this story again.
You know, how can I learn so much every week and still be so stupid? Oh, man. We're doing this story again?
Yeah,
Yes.
but
But
okay,
yes.
okay, but Brett, the way that we understand the way that people process things now, Sean is doing something with his hands, so he can focus on what's being said. He can't communicate that, but a good teacher would realize that, and I think Feeney's just kind of fed up and tired of his antics.
I think for as good of a teacher as Feeney is, I do think that he does get to a point, especially in this episode, where he is just done, and he's
Hmm.
not. He's just reached his breaking point, and he's just done. He's not willing to work within some of those bounds anymore. Um, but Corey's, the bell rings, everyone leaves. Corey comes to Feeney. He's worried about Shawn. Wants to know if there's anything he can do to help him. Mr. Feeney says he's been trying for 4 years. Well, he's been trying for 12 years, but
Hmm.
he wants to know, what else would you have me do for him, Mr. Matthews? I mean,
But there,
Feeney went out of his way to turn his SAT prep course into a circus of excitement with cake and pie, or well, it was just cake, wasn't it?
correct. There is a point when you know there is only so much you can do for someone. And
Hmm.
if Sean wants to stay in the rut of no matter what I do, it doesn't matter, and I'm never going to succeed, yada yada, Feeney at some point has to go, okay, if that's what you want to believe about yourself,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. There's only so much you can ever do for someone. So yeah. Even the best teacher can only take someone so far. They
Yeah,
they have to take they have to take ownership for their own education, their own path, so to speak.
yeah.
So we'll put a pin in them. We'll leave them for a while, and we're gonna head out to one of the hallways at Penbrook. Very familiar hallway. We'll get to know. And Eric and Shawn. I'm going to do that whole episode. Eric and Jack, because apparently the Matthews and the Hunter brothers are interchangeable when we pair them up together.
Basically,
Eric and Jack are passing out flyers to a Magnum Pie. Well, we don't know it's Magnum Pie yet. A fraternity party at their apartment. Big
yes.
Rager, come be there. Eric's the head cheese. Singles only, no children. And just happens to be this. It's maybe intentional, maybe not, but just happens to be right around the same spot where the dean's office is located.
Yeah. If the
And
D finds out, they're going to get kicked out, man.
yeah, as to why the dean would have a problem with a fraternity having a party, I don't know. Fraternities have parties all the time. Eric was just at a fraternity party.
Yeah. As if a dean cares if a fraternity is lying or whatever. Just, Brett, this is the part of the episode. I'm just going to say it. It's dumb. I hate it. I don't want to talk about it. Like, this never has made any sense to me at all. From the time I was a child to the time I was in college, now as an adult and a dad, I can say none of this makes sense. There's no reason why they should get kicked out. And no dean will look at a student and just go, "You're kicked out of school," like for no good reason.
No, they don't have the authority for that. There's a whole process.
Yeah.
They got to go. There is a whole line of stuff they got to go through. Even back in 1997, there
Listen,
was.
if they had brought on this person to be the principal short term, and like George Feeney had to take him down. That was one of the first things he did as a principal. That would be so cool. This guy is wasted in the college years. He should have been here prior to, but he's not.
This is the Pembroke version of Dr. Sorrell almost.
Yeah,
He's sadly wasted.
it's very wasted.
But apparently the
As
dean
principal of the
has
school, you're not the principal, man.
but here we have the dean shows up, and after Eric says the dean adores me, there's not going to be a problem, because it was Jack who got them granted the extension last episode. We're guessing because they high-fived, and they only spoke in Chinese, or in Mandarin. But Dean wants to know what kind of flyer they're passing out, because everybody's got a flyer. If it ain't the chess guys, it's the drama freaks, because that's good for a dean to be saying about his school in the hallway.
Uh-huh.
Save this, conserve that. Ever since Kinko's opened, everybody's flyer crazy. Boy, that doesn't date the show terribly, does it?
Right.
But Eric is very willing to show off this flyer that good old-fashioned fraternity party. It's all his idea. I'm on the way to the library, sir. But since Eric and Jack's names are on it, they're founding members, and we go through this whole process of what's the fraternity's name, and we see Eric's got to find one. Didn't think through this on the. Why would you think of a fraternity party without at least thinking of a name if someone asks you what the fraternity is? Someone's got a Magnum PI
Because his name
shirt.
is Eric Matthews, and he's here for the joke.
Yeah,
Gosh,
I'm
Brett, we spent way too
assuming.
much time on this episode so far.
Yeah, we are. So anyway, Magnum Pie shirt in the background, Magnum PI shirt in the background. Magnum Pie, that's the name of the fraternity.
Yeah. Didn't
Yeah.
get that from Magnum PI, that's for sure.
Yeah, so apparently we've got a Magnum Pie fraternity.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've got Magnum Pie fraternity. Let's go check it back in on Corey and Topanga, because Shawn is missing. Whoa. And we learn, interesting, Corey doesn't know how to spell Shawn's name.
Yeah.
But Mr. Feeney does. And because Corey was going to because we're going to write an excuse for him. And
He has sloth.
yeah, he has sloth. But
Hong Kong sloth, don't you know?
oh yes, fun callback. So anyway, Feeney wants to know where he is, and we know Corey. Corey's going to try and cover, but so let's visit the actual college class that Shawn is going to check out, because Jennifer wants him to sit in the front row. He wants to sit in the back.
Shawn has never sat in the front row. Will never sit in the front row.
No, Shawn hates the front row. But Professor comes in and makes him sit in the front row and wants to pick up where they left off yesterday. This is Professor Michaels. Even though I don't remember them saying his last name in the show, that's his credit. And he is played by a gentleman by the name of Julius Carey. And every time I see this episode, I think this guy is Dennis Haysbert. Julius and Dennis are like identical in my mind. But this is actually the first of 3 appearances that Julius will make, because he'll come back as Angela's dad in season 7 twice. 67 acting credits to see him in, like The Jeffersons, The A-Team, Fame, Moonlighting, A Different World, Family Matters, Earth 2, Carolina City, Moesha, Spin City, The District, Jag, The Unit, and more. Sadly, he did pass away in 2008. So we get a whole run of a little back and forth between this professor and Shawn.
Oh, Brett, no, don't even say that. What we have is a concept that's introduced, which is not bad, but everything Shawn said, he goes, "Oh, so you mean?" And he put this philosophical, spin to it, and it's like, "Sure." And he goes, "Now, did you see that? Did you see that?" And it's like, I've never
I gotta
sat with.
take
I
5.
I took philosophy in college, Brett, as I'm sure you did as
Mhm.
well.
Oh, yeah.
At no point would a professor ever like fill in the gaps that much.
No. My professor would have asked me, "What do you mean by that?"
Correct.
Never would have taken the
Go
ball and
deeper
run
in
with it
that.
like
Explain that a
that.
little bit more.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
my professor's always like,
never
"Let's get in a circle. Let's talk this out."
I never in 4 years of college, I never had a single professor, not even a TA, who would have taken the ball and run with it like that. To a individual person, they all would have asked me to explain my thought further, to make me own my explanation
Right.
so
If
that
it's your
they
idea,
could
you have
see
to explain it.
exactly. And even in a state-funded school in 1997, if the professor is worth their salt to be teaching Western philosophy, they're not going to take a hungry dog is placed on equal distance between two bowls of containing equal amounts of food. Which one does he choose? And Shawn says, I think the dog would choose the food on the right. Why wouldn't he go the one on the left? I think anybody would eat something before they starve to death. And the professor says, you see what he just did there? He skipped right ahead to Schopenhauer's theory that the will to live is the predominant human trait. No, a good professor would have said, why?
Yeah.
He wouldn't have applied it to a philosopher that you're not going to get to for at least 3 weeks, probably.
Yeah. I mean, I think
That's not
there's only so
nonlinear
many
thinking.
scenes we
That's
have
very
with this character.
concrete thinking.
Yeah, we only have so many scenes with this professor, so I think the show wants to establish this guy may be thinking a little too, up there. That he's not able to have down lower conversations.
They want us to see a very highly intelligent person who thinks on a much different level than your average high school student.
Right. Which I wish they would have just said, "Hello, I am Dr. Michael. Let's get back into this." Like
Yeah, and
something about like right doctor in the title, and that will help indicate of the difference between Feeney as teacher and Doctor,
yeah,
so
there
and so
there
forth.
are there are better, more intellectually honest ways to write a character that Shawn will connect with and will engage him at an intellectual level than to create a character who is so intellectually dishonest to the profession.
Correct. What's the difference between Feeney and that guy is crazy. But Brett, here's the real move. What if Shawn flips the book to the last page and sees, oh, the guy who's teaching this class wrote the book that I was just reading. I think that would blow his mind.
Yeah.
Because again, there's a certain level that you are just there's almost like so much information that a lot of professors and PhDs end up having that they have no choice but to write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if he had to realize like, oh, the person I'm talking to is so much smarter than me, like I'm literally learning things from his writing.
Yep.
That would be fun.
That would be. I had some college professors. I would have loved to have them write a book or two for us to use in the
Mhm.
course. Yeah.
I had one or two who wrote a book but didn't get it published yet, but they took what they wrote and said, I really want to use this material, so we're going to use the material.
Yeah. So anyway,
But
after
yeah, so now that we've rethought how they should do the episode, Brett.
after Shawn has wowed the professor with his non-linear thinking and made him
Uh,
take 5 for saying all his majorly out there high school thoughts.
mhm.
Um, we're going to see Shawn working on his paper in the hallway, the senior hall, at the couch that we would never sit on. And Corey thinks he's working on a high school paper. No, it's his college paper on Schopenhauer. And
Yeah,
Corey
it's a
is
Bibliography on
it's a
Schopenhauer?
biography on Schopenhauer. Why would he be writing a
Right.
biography on a philosopher they're not going to get to yet for class?
Correct.
Yeah, this is just, again, not good. Corey wants him to go to class. He won't go to class. Feeney is on the warpath, and he is just ticked off to no end. He wants to know the truth where Shawn is. Corey gives him Alaska.
See, but Sean's confusing the difference between showing up to class and actually being in. And those are two very different things. Because showing up and being in a college class could be really exciting and actually quite enjoyable. There's a reason why when people do visits, one of the options is auditing a class for a day or having a schedule of a student for a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Corey's wrong answer gets himself what is it, 500-word essay on what helping out a friend really means. Topanga's protestation gets him a 2,000-word essay. And her further protestation gets the entire class the same assignment.
Yes.
So the class is really not happy with either of them.
No.
Yeah.
And I love Feeney and all, but I'm happy that these type of punishments are no longer allowed.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
that
really
my
an
parents
abuse
would
of
not have been
power
happy
right
with
there.
that. That is an abuse of power. This is Feeney is not in the best of lights in this episode.
No. I will say I don't mind them showing a darker side to Feeney's teaching this season.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like he's losing control of how to help them and support them, and thus he's turning to tricks that, he doesn't want to use, but he feels like it's the only thing he has now.
Yeah. So he goes out in the hall to find Shawn. They have their discussion. He's not asking Shawn to go to class. He's telling him he has to. I'm the teacher. You're the student. And Shawn tries to pull some philosophy mumbo jumbo on him with.
Yeah, this bothered me a lot, Brett.
That's certainly one point of view. Yeah, I didn't.
There is
I
no
didn't
point
like
of view,
how
and you know better. That's bullcrap.
you've been his student for 12 years. You have shown real deference to him. We have seen it throughout the series. And one day in a college philosophy class, and all of a sudden you think there's something highly different. Now, in the real world, I'm not saying that I haven't seen this kind of a turn, not after one class.
Correct. No, this is the thinking of I had a little independence and now I don't have to listen to people.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is Shaw is more unhinged right now and disrespectful to Feeney, going to a philosophy class than joining a cult, Brett.
He's not refusing to come to class. He's exercising his free will. And then Feeney's going to exercise his and suspend him. Effective immediately. End of discussion.
Go Feeney.
And suspended students are not allowed in school. I'm on board with Feeney here.
That is so cold. So get back from break. Suspended students are not allowed on school grounds.
Yeah. And this whole thing with Corey, how could you do this to him in his senior year? This whole runner of in his senior year, that runner throughout this season is going to bug me whenever someone brings it up. It's just going to bug me. But how could you do this to them? Well, yeah, he was being a butt. It's his choice. He made his choice. He didn't do what he needed to. There is a consequence. It's very clear. You choose this, you choose X, Y is your consequence. It's not a punishment. It's a natural consequence. Hey, look, philosophy, X equals Y. It's math, whatever subject you want to apply it. So anyway.
The word problem of bar is be dumb, win dumb prizes.
So we're going to check in on Jack and Eric briefly.
I do love this interaction. It's one of those classic things that pop up. I don't want to talk about it. Well, I do. You took it out of my closet.
Yes. Jack took Eric's dress. He's trying to fool the dean into thinking he pledged a fraternity. And the dean shows up in their hallway. He didn't know who Eric was. What are you doing in my college hallway? He figured out where they lived. He followed. Did he follow Jack, or did he
Yeah.
just visit at the same time? And he has a niece who attends the University of Hawaii in Oahu, who's never heard of this Magnum Pi.
Yeah.
And they go. Eric tries to do a little off the cuff. We have no Oahu chapter. Very big on the island of Humana 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 Hoo.
My niece, who also attends school somewhere, doesn't go to the school that I am the dean of and should give a special discount to.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Brett, can I just say something for a moment? I lived on campus all 2 out of my 4 years. If at any time the dean of the school were to show up at any of my front doors, whether it be when I lived in a dorm, when I lived at a house downtown Beaver Falls, whether I lived in the apartments at school, whether I lived in the apartment that I lived in at my wife, if any of those doors all of a sudden the dean of the school was in front of, why are you here? Like, what has happened that is so catastrophic, and do I have to save the school? Like,
Seriously.
much bigger fish to fry than what he's dealing with right now.
Apparently the dean is crazy about Eric.
Yeah, for 2 episodes.
Yeah. So apparently, Jack and Eric. Well, Jack has decided to. Was it Jack or Eric? Whichever one. The Love Boats, Ted Lang and Bernie Capel are celebrity donors, and that is how their fraternity is funded.
Yes.
And the dean looks forward to meeting them at the Magnum Pi party,
Yes.
which he's apparently going to crash, even though he was not formally invited, which Eric actually did give him a flyer to, so he has been invited.
Yes.
Yes. And yes, as soon as he heard Jack start talking while in dress, he knew he was Jack. Come inside, you hussy. And then
Brett, as garbage as this episode is, it is nice seeing the bonds of Eric and Jack getting stronger. Friendships is great.
Yeah, as garbage as you can't just skip over all of it because you do see those building blocks. Yes.
Look, the way to understand Nietzsche is simple. Read it in the original German.
Because Shawn understands German all of a sudden?
Earlier on in the show, he says, I can speak it and understand it, but I can't read it.
But was that German? I don't remember it being German. I remember it being a different language. Polish. It was with the what was that? The Timmers. They weren't German.
Timmers. I mean, they make it seem like he's
a savant
all over the place.
He's a savant, but he can't read Nietzsche in the original German. He's just trying to show off. Tutor me.
Yeah, I mean, technically, Shawn should have a connection to the Amish community. He should. If this is a real Pennsylvania show, they would just say, oh, Shawn understands German because part of his ancestry comes from that, and that's just something that they pass on, like American Dutch, essentially, like Amish Dutch. Like, that would make sense. Like, they should have him be kind of Dwight K. Schrute, just a smidgen.
I don't know. I don't see Chet or Verna passing that on to him.
Well, no, it wouldn't be them. It'd be Uncle Tony.
Maybe. Out there working on the bikes, maybe he throws a couple of things his way.
Regardless, it's there for the joke. It's all that matters is the joke.
I think he's just trying to show off.
Yes. I do love that Corey tries to show up to this class, Brett.
Yes, that is a good step for Corey, trying to figure out what's the big to do for Shawn, and the professor comes
Brett,
in.
oh
They're
my
going.
gosh, this is cult fiction, just not as bad.
This is cult fiction taking the way it's veering off to the left into like this is how bad it could go
Yeah,
from a
this is cult
writing
fiction
standpoint.
if Mr. Mac graded papers and had a responsibility other than just be a creep.
This is cult fiction if this is the first draft before it had been refined into
Oh,
something actually good.
this is cult fiction if it was the first season. Ba-da-bow!
So professor comes in. They're going to talk about
I'm just visiting.
structuralism.
Oh, like we're all just visiting? Yes, exactly.
that's
That's
bull.
bull!
This is what happens in philosophy class. You throw out a few cliches and I'm supposed to be impressed. Well, I'm not. You were yesterday.
You're right. Brett, did you ever have a professor yell at you, whether it's a straight up professor or a PhD, yell at you for a thought you had in their class?
No, but I did have a friend who had a professor who chucked an eraser at him for being a sarcastic idiot.
Well, yeah, that's pretty standard.
It was Dean Smith.
I believe that.
I never had anyone yell at me, though, no. I have seen professors lose it on students as far as... I did have one professor tell me that my major was a waste of time.
Well, yeah.
But I've seen a professor to get angry with students, but not quite in this vein.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't feel like he has a real leg to stand on when the exact thing happened just the day before.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, every professor, every teacher is human. I think that's a good sign of that in this episode. But
Yeah.
yeah, it from one scene in the classroom to the next scene, it doesn't make sense. Why is he the way he is? I think this guy would be better at like a drill sergeant, or a recruiter.
Yeah, he probably would. Philosophy doesn't quite seem to be his bag.
No, but yelling at someone and forcing them to do push-ups, that would work pretty well.
You are a disgrace to the entire human race. But anyway,
Everybody else quit. Why don't you quit?
so he hands back everyone's papers. He's disappointed by some of them because it seems like they
One
were
paper in particular, Brett. One paper. Just can't believe it.
just one. And Shawn is very upset because his paper, he put a lot of work into it, but he got an F.
Mm-hmm.
And
And he didn't even get Corey's.
yeah, I didn't get yours. But Shawn is very upset because he tells Corey, I belong here. This is where, he's supposed to be. And so he talks to the professor. I was expecting a scholarly work of real accomplishment. Except for a few promising ideas, it was poorly written, it was disorganized, and sloppily researched. But you said I had a good mind. You do, but you're in college. You're supposed to know the basics. I don't have time to teach them to you.
Do you know what Brett does have the time to teach you the basics in college?
Who would that be?
English classes.
Yes. Or if
English
you
101.
have even a
English
basic level
201.
college, the writing department that has
Yeah.
tutoring.
Yes, the standard. If you go to the library and you ask them, "Hey, where are the tutors at?" and they go to this room.
English 095. But
Hey, I
so
took English 095. It was very helpful to get me
yeah.
ready to be able to write actual papers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Shawn is very crestfallen. He's broken. He and Corey leave because he doesn't belong in high school. He doesn't belong in college. And Corey convinces him to go talk to Feeney. Yeah. So we get this funny little, you, Schopenhauer. Corey says, me, leaving. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always enjoy the scenes in the classroom. It is enjoyable. I think what bothers me in this thinking that he has is, well, high school isn't for me. Well, high school is giving you information. You need to retain that information and show me you retained it. Where college is, here is a problem. Here's what we're talking about. You think about that problem and how do we deal with that problem? There's a
Mhm.
little bit of, hey, here's some information. We want to know if you have learned it. But most of it is, think about this and you tell me, based on the things you've read and understand, why is it the way it is.
Yep. Mhm.
So, yes, Shawn would struggle because he struggled in high school because he didn't take in the information he needed to be able to create and be able to articulate in paper form what he needs to articulate.
Mhm. Yep.
Gosh, I
So
feel so angry right now.
I'm with you. So we're gonna run into Dean Bozo at the Magnum Pie party where Shawn and
Just,
Jack are telling all the girls, only girls, there's no guys, to head to the closet.
Brett, how you just say to girls, go to the closet, and
Yeah,
they would
let's
just
take
go to the
these
closet.
12, 14 girls all into the closet with us because our closet's that big in this apartment. But Dean Bozo, it's been fun toying with you, but now I'm bored. And Jack has actually managed to arrange for the Love Boats, Ted Lang, and Bernie Capel to show up. And they are played by Ted Lang and Bernie Capel, and good looking people.
Hmm.
If you don't know who Ted Lang and Bernie Capel are, well, you're missing out. Ted
Love
Lang
boat.
and Bernie Capel, there's the only time we'll ever see them up on Meets World. They're playing themselves. Ted Lang, 80 acting credits to his name, including That's My Mama, Fantasy Island, Charlie's Angels, The Fall Guy, not the movie that just came out this year, the TV show it was based on,
Mm.
The Love Boat, Evening Shade, Platypus Man, Weird Science, Martin, Family Matters, The Love Boat, The Next Wave, when they were doing revivals before it was cool, and remakes before it was cool. Scrubs, The King of Queens, Psych, The Cleveland Show, Are We There Yet? And more. He's actually still acting. He has a project coming out sometime this year.
Nice.
And Bernie Capel, first and only time we'll see him, 142 acting credits to his name,
Mm.
including McHale's Navy, The Lucy Show, Beverly Hillbillies, The Dick Van Dyke Show, Green Acres, Get Smart, Petticoat Junction, The Odd Couple, Bewitch, Mary Tyler Moore Show, Charlie's Angels, Fantasy Island, The Love Boat, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Martin, The Love Boat, The Next Wave, Beverly Hills 90210, Scrubs, Monk, Arrested Development, Superstore, Grey's Anatomy, and so many more I don't have time to mention.
Hmm.
But
Interesting.
yeah, so they're there. It's not enough to convince the dean. He's just not going to buy it. But they don't care. They get paid either way.
Yep.
So, long story short, the dean is just going to close them down. They can't be a fraternity. There's no consequences beyond you just can't be a fraternity.
Yeah.
But Bernie and Ted are going to go to the dean's house because his mom's a big Get Smart fan. So,
Mhm.
which obviously Bernie was in.
Of course.
He played Nazi bad guy. Not a
Mhm.
Nazi, a German bad guy. He wasn't a Nazi, just German. Worked for an organization called Chaos. But
You say Siegfried.
he actually was in like 3 different renditions of Get Smart.
I believe that.
Yeah. But so they leave, and Eric says, "Well, tomorrow we close, but tonight we open. Ladies, to the closet." And that is how Magnum Pie ends, just as
Dumb as it started.
dumb as it started. Can I fix anyone a drink?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, nice to have the cameo, but like, this is how we got them. Why?
stunt casting.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Yeah, I couldn't. I honestly looked. I could not find any behind the scenes story as to why Bernie and Ted were on the show. I don't know if it was the writer wrote them in and they managed to get them, if they were going to be on the lot that day, if it was, Michael was friends with them and working on another project and just wanted to shoehorn them in. I don't know. No clue. So anyway, we're gonna go to the backyard with the Matthews. They're coming back from getting frozen yogurt.
I do love that. Why can't I offer him yogurt?
Do you not
Do you
get the
not understand the
concept of a
concept of a
whisper?
whisper?
Oh, Corey's just upset with me.
Yeah.
And they talk about Shawn taking college courses at Pembroke because Shawn has showed up at.
In fairness to Corey, Brett, I will say in this scene, he's finally communicating what bothers him.
Mhm. He
That
is.
he's seeing that Shawn has interest in learning. He's just not doing it the right way, in the way that Feeney would approve of.
Yeah. He's And though he's not really laying it out, he's laying it out at a very high school level, but he's putting what he learned in philosophy into his life. This paradox with the dog,
Mm-hmm.
and Feeney is hearing where he's at, um, where he's got high school and college laid out in front of him, and we actually see the show trip over a moment of growth in the midst of all of this dreck, where Shawn actually wants college.
Mm-hmm.
And Corey convinces him to show Mr. Feeney's paper, where it's, hey, it's just another F for the scrapbook. And, Feeney says, I mean, he tears it apart structurally. It's one long sentence,
Yeah.
but it's good. It's college level thinking. But it needs the basic building blocks of how to put the information into an accessible form or
Mm-hmm.
accessible format. And so they agree. Shawn's going to come back to school. Feeney's going to teach him those basic building blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And he's willing to throw in a little Schopenhauer every now and then. And so in the tag, we just get the Matthews family having kidnapped Bernie and Ted and forcing them to listen to stories of their family for 6 hours.
Yeah, a little uncomfortable.
Don't know how they scored the money for their appearance there, but they did.
I mean,
Uh,
6 hours with them, Brett, is a good amount of time. Like, for an appearance like that, it should cost a pretty penny just for like an hour.
Yeah, I would imagine. I don't know what a personal appearance rate for one of them would go for, but I'd imagine we're probably talking at least I'd say minimum a couple $100 a piece
Yeah.
for an
I
hour.
mean, Jack is the one that paid for it, Brett, so he's loaded.
Yeah. Jack, who by the way in episode 1 of the season was very clear with Shawn, his money he works for. He doesn't dip into daddy's savings, into daddy's wallet.
But if he has a credit card on Daddy and for emergency expenses, Brett.
So that is our episode, good looking people. Tyler, do you have any deep dives for us?
Yeah.
People, 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 people. Am I the only one who read the summer reading list?
All right. So in North America, fraternities and sororities, brotherhoods, sisterhoods are social organizations at colleges and universities. They sometimes collectively referred to as Greek life. Generally, membership is in a fraternity or sorority is obtained as undergrad student that continues thereafter for life. Some accept graduate students as well. Individual fraternities and sororities vary in organize and purpose, but most share five common elements. Um, Secrecy? Yes, secrecy. Single sex membership. Selection of new members based on two-part vetting and pro probationary
Probationary.
probationary, thank you, process known as rushing or pledging, ownership and occupancy in the residence opportunity where undergrads members live, a set of complex identification symbols that may include Greek letters, uh, arm, uh, armorial achievement, badges, grips, hand signs, passwords, flowers, and colors. Fraternities and sororities engage in philanthropic activities, host parties, provide finishing training for new members, such as instructions on etiquette, dress manners, and create networks of opportunity for their newly graduated members. Fraternities and sororities can be tax exempt 501c3 organizations in the United States. And I wonder, Brett, if that might be the reason why the dean may have some interest in, because if it's an official fraternity, they may have a 501c3, which could affect funding, potentially, yada yada.
Very
Who
possibly.
cares? So, Western philosophy, Brett, refers to philosophical thought, traditions, and works of Western world. Historically, the term refers to philosophical thinking of the Western culture, beginning in the ancient Greek philosophy and the pre Socratic, a word philosophy itself organized in the ancient Greek philosophia, the love of wisdom. They were talking about a dog and two bowls. The most famous version of this is called uh, Bourdain's ass, referring to that. He says the paradox is that what is free will, and if you have a donkey, or as he was calling an ass, with food in front of it, equal distance, it will be paralyzed on which one to go to. Which, dog to a donkey, it makes sense why you would switch the two of them for a TV show such as this. But for the metaphor, it does make sense because those are stubborn creatures. And so, what would cause the donkey to go one way or the other? Who knows? Um, I will say, knowing dogs will eventually go and eat something because they're not that. They can be stubborn, but at the end of the day, if they're hungry, they're going to go eat.
They're going to go pick one of them. It doesn't matter to them.
Whether it's your child's food that they throw on the ground, yelling "Bye, Day," or their own dish, they'll eventually eat.
Yeah.
Also, the funny thing was is that the show calls it Jacques Bourdain, when everything I found it's Jean Bourdain, like Jen.
They probably just made some adjustments to his name so people didn't just really outright complain. So
Could be,
in their world, it's a different guy.
probably. Jean Bourdain was born in 1359 and okay, I'm sorry. No, born in the way they have this, it confused me. Um, so born in 1301 and passed either 1359 or 1362. It's not clear exactly when he passed away.
Hmm.
But yes, was from Paris. So yeah, I don't doubt what you're saying is that they they adjusted the name enough so that way it wasn't like exact and potentially getting themselves in trouble. But I will say that Schopenhauer's "The World as Will and Representation," um, basically the world as will, um, is a central work of German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. The first edition was published in 1881 or 1818, with the first date uh, with the date 19 or 1819. Weird on the title page. The second volume came out in 1844. Okay, so taking the transcendental idealism of Immanuel Kant as his starting point, Schopenhauer argues that the world humans experience around them, the world of object in space and time, and relate in casual way, exists solely as representation, depending on the cognitive subject, not the world that can be considered to exist in itself. One of the knowledge is of the object is thus yes, thus knowledge of mere phenomenon rather than things in itself. Schopenhauer identifies the thing in itself as the inner essence of everything as will, a bind, unconscious, aimless striving, devoid of knowledge, outside of space and time, and free of all manip- multi, uh, multiplicity. The world that's represented is therefore the objectification of the will. So, in layman's term, will to live is super important, and that's something that anyone can talk about. I believe if you watch Batman Begins, there's a good match about what is the will to live and the will to do good and the will to do justice. So, if you want a good representation of that philosophy, watch Batman Begins. Your parents' death was not your fault. It was your father's. He lacked the will to live.
Dun 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 dun
Oh, no, will to
dun
survive. Yes, that's what it
dun
was.
dun 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 dun.
Dun, dun. Anywho. Well, now I'm going to have that theme song stuck in my head.
Yes.
Structuralism is an intellectual, current methodological approach, primarily in a social science, is interprets the elements of human culture by the way of the relationship to the border system. It works to uncover the structural patterns that underlies all things that humans do, think, um, perceive, and feel. Here's the thing that people who have not good like people that if you didn't go to school, what you have to understand is people make up words to describe the things that all of us are constantly trying to figure out. What's the deal with things? What's the deal with that? And a lot of college and intellectual thinking is about how do we make it more complicated and go deeper and think way too hard into this and eventually just sound like if you don't get that joke, wait till next season.
And then
Yes. Friedrich Nietzsche. He was only mentioned for about 2 seconds, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about him. He was a German philosopher. He was a critic of culture who became one of the most influential of all modern thinkers. He began his career as a classical um, philosophist Before turning to philosophy, he became the youngest person to hold the chair of classical philology at the University of Basel in Switzerland in 1869 at the age of 29, but resigned due to health in 1879. So he was born October 15th, 1844, and passed away August 22nd, 1900. He was only 55 years old. That's quite sad.
Hmm.
Yeah, Nietzsche is a guy who gets quoted quite a bit. And there's a paradox between him and another philosopher who I'm blanking on right off the top of my head. I took a philosophy class on this guy, Nietzsche, and also another guy. Again, I'm blanking on his name right off the top of my head. Um, but essentially, um, Nietzsche's big thing is about like the Superman, the superhuman, and who is the superhuman, who is this being that is above everyone else, and Nietzsche thinking of himself and being that in an intellectual way, and so fun guy this Nietzsche, complicated being for sure, um, but yeah, very important, very relevant. And of course, we can't end without talking about the Love Boat, Brett. Love Boat ran
The
from
love boat
1977
soon
to
will be making
1987.
another.
250 episodes. Love is in the air. Well, not all. Not only in the air, but also on sea. Passengers who search for romantic nights aboard the beautiful ship traveling to tropical or mysterious countries decide to pass their vacations aboard the Love Boat. So yeah, that's all I have for deep dives, Brett.
All right. Well, in that case,
You know anything about the Odyssey?
Huh?
Did I say you could talk?
I didn't teach you that.
My friend Mr. Matthews will lead the discussion.
Do I have to draw you a picture?
what did we learn? Tyler, I learned that even in the midst of all the dreck, there can be a little bit of gold. Jack and Eric.
Yep. I mean,
But seriously, I will pull a little bit of good from this. Even in the midst of all of everything that went on, Mr. Feeney just being annoyed with Shawn to the point that he would give the entire class a 2,000-word essay that was unearned. He was willing to listen to what Shawn had to say at the end of the day after suspending him. He was willing to hear what was on his heart, and he was willing to look at what he had written with an objective eye. So what I learned from this is that even in the midst of all of the crap that's going on, there is something worth looking for that is good underneath all of it.
Mhm.
No matter what the crap is,
Yep.
always look for something good. What did you learn, Tyler?
I mean, the basics are called the basics for a reason. There has to be something to build off of. There's a reason why in sports, so often people doing commentary will say they just need to get back to basic football. They just need to get back to the tackling and the catch and the throw. They just got to get back to those important fundamentals. And there's a reason for that. And it's people trying to do too much or stretch themselves in weird ways, and they try to go against some of the natural tendencies they have and not trust their bodies and trust their abilities, and they end up hurting themselves. So sometimes understanding what the basics really are and why they're important. There's a reason why every single quarterback is taught certain things a certain specific way, so that way they can learn and grow and develop. And there's a reason why linemen literally learn certain techniques and are drilled into their heads of do this every time, do this every time, do this every time. There's certain things that just have to be done. I mean,
Mhm.
I think about my little guys, and so often I have them trying to catch the football with their chest, and I keep trying to tell them, "You gotta do the triangle. You gotta do the triangle." They're like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because someday you're not going to be able to use your chest to catch the football. The sooner you learn how to use your hands to catch the football and then bring it in, the better off you're going to be." And sometimes it goes quite well. Many times it doesn't go well at all. Or if a kid runs up and they fumble the ball, I look at them, I go, "What'd you do?" And they'll just hold their arms up like little T-Rex arms. I said, "Exactly, no T-Rex arms." Um, so it's just they're as corny as it sounds, the basics are there for a reason, Brett. It's basic because it's the fundamentals, and they have to be there. And speaking of
Mhm.
someone that didn't really have the basics or the fundamentals when he went off to college, college will teach you them. It's annoying.
Yes. So, Tyler,
I'm right? No, you're exactly right. So am I done with my education? Can I go?
what would you grade our lovely episode of Fraternity Row?
Oh, I struggle with this one, Brett. Problem is, okay, we handed out D's and even an F's a few seasons ago, and I felt justified in that. I don't know if I can justify giving this episode an F, and I don't think I can justify giving it a D because all in all, this episode is good for what it is trying to do and trying not to look too intensely at this based on what my experience was in college. And remember that once upon a time, I thought it was funny that Eric was trying to outsmart a gray haired man, not realizing why. Um, and I do love the classroom moments with in the philosophy classroom. So, but might be controversial, but gonna have to give it a C minus.
C minus. All right. Hmm. I've gone back and forth with this one a lot because this is the first episode of the season that I've really been completely down on.
Yep.
The only real positives I pull from it are Feeney being willing to listen to Shawn at the end of the day,
Yep.
being shown that Feeney is human and not perfect, and Shawn actually wanting and showing real desire and competency for
Hmm.
a collegiate level education for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really label it an abject failure.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same hand, I ranked our previous episode a D.
You did.
So I'm going to give this one. See, this is where pluses and minuses actually come in helpful.
Yep.
I am going to give this one a D minus.
Okay.
It's not a. I mean, it's not a complete failure. There are some benefits. I mean, there are some goods to it. And there the Eric and Jack stuff, as dumb as it is, with the complete misses and understanding of what college is and what fraternity life is and the role of a dean. It does show them building a friendship, and it does show them just being goofballs together. And it's aside from the questionable girls to the closet moment, it is relatively innocent fun. So, I can't fail it outright. So D- for me.
Fair. Very fair.
All right. And so, pardon me. I believe before we go, I owe you a dad joke. And
You
so
do.
let me bring it up here. I had copied one down for you. I just need to bring it up. Da, da, da. So I realized the other day that my fingers are actually all of my best friends.
Oh, yeah?
I can always count on them.
Very nice.
Yes, yes. And one more for you. One more for the road. Some people age gracefully, like fine wine. I plan to age like an old cheese, full of character and slightly offensive.
Very nice.
So, good looking people. Da, 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 where did my button go? Good looking people, thanks for sticking around with a couple of old men yelling at kids to stay off their lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to write into us and tell us how much you love this episode or how much you think you agree with us, send us an email at dadsmeetworld@gmail.com. We'll read your email live on air as we record it and edit it and release it to the world multiple days later. We won't edit what you say unless you want us to.
Correct.
You can also reach out to us on social media at dadsmeetworld across X/Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and on YouTube, where you can find our video version if you're not watching it right now, and if you're just listening to us.
Yep.
And
Brett,
Tyler,
we only have 5 more episodes for our challenge.
yes,
If we get those 5, if we don't get those 5 episodes, it's gone.
Yeah. I haven't seen any reviews coming in yet, so we might be safe.
We might be safe.
100 reviews and ratings, and we'll do the hot stuff dance. If not, no hot
Not
stuff
happening.
dance.
Nope.
So get your friends, your lovers, your grandmothers, your Mr.
fraternity
Feeney's
brothers.
brothers. Well, until next time, Tyler, I'll see you. Good looking.
Back to you, good looking.
I want to be normal, Spud. How can I learn so much every week and still be so stupid? Topanga.
We are the Timmers.
This is good TV.
Dads Meet World is a production of Headfirst Studios. Headfirst Studios. Tell your story.